after the film, we've just experienced the journey of Sirkka-Liisa, which is, as said, a rather unique one. And it is my pleasure to welcome Elina Talvensaari, the director of Lady Time, to this Q&A session. Welcome. So let's start by explaining the audience what is actually Lady Time, because it is not everybody knows what is Lady Time.
Okay, yeah. The name in English, of course, it doesn't work as in Finnish. In Finnish, the word Lady Time refers to the service. I think it's called speaking clock in English. It's a phone number where you can call and they tell you what day it is and what time it is. And the first thing when I entered the apartment of Sirkka-Liisa was the sign saying Neiti Aika, Lady Time, and the phone number. So it's sort of the image of this old lady calling on a landline phone to this service to know what time it is. And of course, also it refers to the general, force of time. It's kind of personification of the time in my head. Yeah.
And it is all about time. I mean, we are experiencing a rather huge slice of life of somebody's life. We're talking about over 90 years. So if you could tell us a little bit about this journey. I mean, it's also a journey for you, and this film wasn't made in one day or in 1 year or even 2 years. I mean, how long did it take you, and how did you start creating this story, and what were the early steps?
Okay, so like first when we went to the apartment and I realized all of her life was there, I knew that I should be filming this, but at that time I just couldn't. I was pregnant and we had to renovate the apartment and it was just too much. I couldn't do that. And but at that time I already was thinking like, oh, this is something quite unique. And but then well, I did those couple of iPhone videos at the time, but that's all. And then it took about, I don't know, it took more than 1 year. My first baby was born, and at the time I wasn't thinking so much about Sirkka-Liisa, but living in like with her things, of course, I was kind of thinking of her all the time. But it took almost 4 years before I actually started writing the film. And to finish it all and all, I think it took like 6 or 7 years, but I wasn't doing it all the time. Like, I was having 2 children meanwhile, and I finished other film, but it was kind of in my mind for a very long time.
Yeah.
And like the funny thing is that right from the beginning, I kind of knew how the film would end. Once I found the little note that's in the, like the last picture of the film, then I kind of knew that I had a film in my hands, because the first apartment was full of those things that reminded me of death, and all those hair and everything that was kind of a bit scary when you have to live with those things. But then when I found this note full of love, and then I kind of knew that there's everything in my hands in that apartment. So that's a moment when I knew that it was going to be a film. But then it took years before I actually started doing it.
Yeah, and then you don't exactly know how it's going to, the middle part is going to unfold. And then, but talking about, one of the themes that we are talking about this year, the festival is it's language, and I was thinking about this dialogue that you created between you and Sirkka-Liisa, and that was, I guess that came from finding the letters and the diaries and the way that started, and then searching for the background of the family story. I mean, that thing that you discovered, this museum, is pretty amazing. But it also brings it to the context of the changing society. And everything that how big the little life actually is. And yeah.
Yeah, like before finding the letters, I was still gonna make the film, but I was thinking of a short film, and it was more about the things and what they kind of made me feel and things like that. But once I found the letters in the museum, which was quite amazing, I knew they had some photos. That's why I went there. But then I found all these letters, and the moment that I found actually a letter written by Sirkka-Liisa, it was quite like, oh, I'm in a time machine or something. It was very, very moving for me. And the dialogue, yes, we rewrote it while we were editing, like, I don't know, more than 100 times. We were editing it all the time because it's hard to explain the process, but it really has to be quite precise with the picture, like not telling too much the same thing as the picture, but still opening some images for the viewer. But it was a long process to make the dialogue.
That's what I was also thinking, that so it was actually straight from the beginning that you were thinking it from your own, also from the angle of your own life, that because that's also a brave this kind of decision to put yourself in the film. But I guess without that you wouldn't, the film would, it would just maybe come across as being a bit one-dimensional. So you made the brave decision to put yourself in the film, and it's your thoughts and the way that Sirkka-Liisa's story resonates to you, but then it also resonates to the audience as well a lot, because
yeah, I'm happy if that works like that, because first I was a little shy about putting myself in the film, but once I realized that I mean, the only main character is actually dead, so the audience has very little where to like emotionally connect with the film. So then I knew that, of course, well, there has to be someone they can kind of follow in the film. So then I thought, like, okay, I'll be there. And even in editing, we changed the dialogue to be more personal, because really there's nothing much to hang on to for the audience if I'm not being honest. That's kind of what you have to do. Otherwise, it's just going to be I don't know, a bit more superficial story, and maybe, I don't know, you must feel something when you watch it. So
yeah. And quite a few of the themes are very universal, so it's also, that's why it works so beautifully with the bigger audience as well. That, I mean, from female perspective, we, talking about motherhood and marriage and all these kind of things, it's very, very beautiful. And then, and also the loneliness, and is it like, in the beginning you play with the idea of, like, that this is a person that is totally, that we don't know, and we kind of fear that this is what happened, that nobody remembers Sirkka-Liisa, and there's no meaning to her life, and then we take this journey and realize that you find meaning in many ways. Was there some of the objects, what were the objects of Sirkka-Liisa's life that really spoke to you the most?
Well, in the beginning, it was maybe the mysterious diary, because first I thought it was Sirkka-Liisa's, and the hair was kind of, I don't know, it's part of a person, and once you find it in your own home, it's kind of, I don't know, I had my imagination running wild, thinking crimes and everything, but yeah, that was in the beginning. But once I got to know a little bit more about Sirkka-Liisa, it was actually those very ordinary things, like, like buttons and all those small things, like cups, and thinking of like what she liked, and all these kitchen utensils, and very common things that I actually made me feel more like close to Sirkka-Liisa.
And it really felt like she left with her boots on, although we do discover that, there was a years of sickness, but there were still chocolates on the table, and so there was like no signs that this person has stopped living
No, no, yeah, yeah, it's actually quite amazing, yeah, when you think about it. Yeah.
Was there some cinematic influences while you were making the film that was in your mind? Of course, the ethics comes to place when you're making a documentary and talking about somebody else's life. For this one, you didn't have to ask for anybody's permission as such because there was, I assume that there was nobody to ask from. So
nobody I could find, at least. Yeah, but of course, there's always this ethical question. And at some point I was thinking, like, am I allowed to do this? Because Sirkka-Liisa cannot say if, I don't know if she would have hated being in a film. But then at some point, I don't know. It might be, of course, just an illusion, but I kind of felt connected to her. And I felt that I was really looking at her with even admiration at some point. And at least I was honoring her. So I thought that I just felt that I have a kind of permission to make the film. But there's always an ethical question involved. But yeah, legally, there was no problem. What was your question? I'm sorry.
The cinematic influences.
Cinematic influences. It was hard. I couldn't really find that many films. There's one Finnish film, Jäävuoren varjon. I don't know if you're familiar with that film. It's also about a person who had disease and anyway, but it was hard to find any references really. I was looking more like fine arts with the still life pictures and things like that. But in terms of film, not really that many influences. I was of course watching a lot of films to find out what kind of monologue or dialogue you could have, but I don't know, this was such a, I don't know, for me a unique case because it was so personal to me that I kind of felt that I have to do it the way I really sort of experienced it.
And you did a little bit of also archival material just to show, I mean, it's a very dramatic time, the curve of time in the film, because we go through the war years and all these kind of things. So it's a very nice touch that you added those things also to show the international audience the images that maybe we know as Finns, but not everybody in them. So that came, I assume that came a bit later during the process of.
No, not really. It's in the script. Actually, in the script, there's even more like historical happenings of Finland involved, but in the editing phase, it was too complicated. We needed a more clear arc of Sirkka-Liisa and me. So a lot of things just dropped from the film, a lot of historical happenings, but at least we could have some to sort of build a sense of time and history to the film. But it was quite from the beginning. In the beginning, I was going to start the film with the Olympics, but then people said like, why Olympics? I mean, isn't that person a bit more important? Oh.
So you actually take the hard way in the beginning because it's straight to the personal, the personal parts. And now you've left Sirkka-Liisa's in your home and you've moved on. Have you, since the film came out, it's screened in a couple of festivals and it's going to be opening in the cinemas once the cinemas are fully back in action. Have you discovered, just because I think people are also a bit curious, because you mentioned somewhere that you have maybe discovered some things afterwards as well that are not in the film but might be significant for the film, or how has it been after the film has been released?
Well, I haven't found out any significant facts about her life, but actually in one of the first screenings in the Dog Point Festival in January in Finland, there was a screening and the moderator asked me in the Q&A like, how does it feel to show this film? And I said like, oh, it's always nice and blah, 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 but there's always this excitement of like, maybe there's somebody in the audience who knew Sirkka-Liisa, and then one hand came up, and I was like, oh. And well, she didn't want to speak in public, but after the Q&A, she came to tell me that she just came to see the film. She had no idea that it was about this person who she had worked with. So she knew Sirkka-Liisa, they had worked together. And later I also found a person who, as a child, had visited their home many times. They had her mother was a friend of Sirkka-Liisa's, and then even one person who was her home nurse in her very late years. So it's always so so nice to meet these people. And the nice thing for me has been that they have sort of confirmed my idea of Sirkka-Liisa, because of course at some point I was afraid, like, what if the marriage, for example, was terrible, and I'm showing all this love that lasts so many decades. But they told me that at least as far as they know, it was really a happy marriage, and also like their view of Sirkka-Liisa was similar to mine. So that was a great thing to know.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful film, as said, and I think it's gonna, stick with the audience for a long time and make you think. Like I was thinking that this is the film to watch during these strange times that we live in our homes, spending a lot of time among our belongings and all these kind of things. So what is next for you? What are you working on at the moment? Just to give a little glimpse.
Well, after finishing a film, for me, I always need this time of sort of wondering. I have a few things in mind, but I'm really shy to talk about them before I have something concrete. So I'm not really able to tell you much. I'm sorry.
And that's okay, because actually this one is just starting his journey, and it's going to be in the cinema. So let's enjoy this for the time being. Thank you so much. And I hope the audience enjoyed it, and best of luck with Galway, and please watch the other films in the competition as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for seeing the film. Bye.